I hope you all are doing good. So we have about 9 participants in this meeting. So we'll quickly start it with what we had planned for this session. So we are still yet to walk through a few of the activity questions that we couldn't do in the last session, as guess that was too early and most of you hadn't watched all of the lectures. So that's why we didn't proceed with the those category of questions that day. So we'll be walking through them and we'll be completing that task today. After that, what I have planned for today's session is basically to just get started with a small JavaScript application. So we'll learn some simple DOM manipulation stuff, how to do all of that. Maybe you would have done such type of application in your Mat1 course. I'm not exactly sure, but let me just try to give you an overall idea of what type of application we are going to build. So we'll be creating a simple table-like application where there will be a simple text input box in front of the user who is supposed to enter a number. We'll try to put some validations there. Well, to be very honest, we won't be emphasizing too much on the styling part of it, as I hope you all are very well versed with that, and you can go on and do whatever stuff you want to do with the styling and all. So we'll be focusing on the implementation part of it. So basically, what it does is the moment user enters any input and clicks on a button, so the application should create a table for that particular number, let's say up to 10 or 20, whatever you decide. And yeah, that's it. The moment you refresh it, all goes away, and you can basically enter any number, click on that button again and again to see whatever tables you want. So we'll be doing this entire stuff using vanilla JavaScript. Vanilla JavaScript means we won't be using any JavaScript framework or library for that. We'll be doing it with simple JavaScript programming. That's it. All right. So before we proceed further, I would just like to get an idea that if all of you have finished watching the week 2 videos, I hope you should be. So may I just get a raw idea that how many of you are already done watching those videos? You can simply raise your hands in case you are done. Okay. Yeah, I can see one hand raised. Yeah, two. Okay. Okay, so I see 3 hands being raised here. What about the others? Are you still going through those videos? Okay, all right. Okay, so I can see 4 of them. Yeah, you all can lower your hands now. So yeah, we'll quickly wrap up with all of the remaining activity questions that we left in the previous session, and then after that we'll proceed with the application that we just discussed a few seconds ago. Okay, so I just wanted to discuss about the programming assignment as well. So there were 2 programming assignments, one for week 1, the other one for week 2. Have you all tried that? Week 1 might be a quite straightforward task, but yeah, week 2 may involve some.
Sir, I found week 2 and 2 easy.
Sorry?
I found that week 2 was easier and week 1 I couldn't complete.
Okay, you found week 2 to be easier. Okay, that's right. Okay, so week 1, what's the exact difficulty that you faced there?
Sir, during the calculation of number of days, I am facing difficulty. I have posted the query in Discourse as well. I'm not getting the correct number of days. I'm getting either +1 or -1 of days of the actual. So suppose it should be 180 days, then I am getting either 181, or sometimes if I supposed to get 190, I'm getting 189. So there is a day difference, and sometimes I'm getting correct output. So that is.
Okay, so it will probably be the JavaScript implementation of it. Did you try using a similar type of logic for Python? Maybe you would be able to get your answer.
I think the if you want, I can paste my code here.
No, maybe we'll have a look at it later on after this session.
Okay.
So what I would suggest you is to try the similar logic with Python as well and see if you are getting the same result. If you're getting a different result, that is most probably due to the different implementations. So Python is basically implemented in a different way than JavaScript.
Yeah, actually that is the case, because it was simpler in Java in Python to calculate the number of days, but in JavaScript I'm using the date object, but still, I don't know why it is giving me different result.
By the way, were you able to pass the public? Sorry, not only the public. Yeah, so public test cases on the portal.
No, sir.
Okay, you were not able to. Okay, all right. Yeah. So yeah, the suggestion that I had just given, you can probably try the same on Python and let us know. Okay, so let me just get ready for sharing my screen. Okay, so those who have finished watching the lectures, have you all tried solving the activity in practice questions for week 2 as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Did you face any difficulty there while solving those?
Yes, sir. I'm facing difficulties in few methods, and I need to revisit them again.
Okay, your voice is not clear, Kamal. So yeah, I'm able to get that you are facing some difficulties, but I may not be able to get the exact thing when you will put up the question. So yeah, I'll just start. Maybe by then you can get it corrected. So is my browser screen visible to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So last time, if I'm able to remember correctly, I guess we left it on 2.3. We didn't start with 2.4. It is precisely what I remember. I'm not sure. Maybe I'll have to look at the previous session once.
Yes, sir. We did till 2.3.
Okay.
We completed 2.3.
Okay, all right. So we'll start with 2.4 today. Okay, all right. I guess I saw this query in the discourse sometime today as well. So yeah, which of the following shows the correct? Okay, so whoever has already solved these questions, I would request them to have active participation here and try to answer as much as queries as possible. In case you are facing any difficulties while solving any of those, yeah, we'll probably help you. Okay, so here there is a small JavaScript code, and we are supposed to predict output for this. So what we are basically doing here is we are creating two objects using let keyword. There is a object called A, which is having three properties A, B, C. The values correspond to those properties are 1, 2, and basically one function that just returns a simple message hello. B function, it basically inherits the properties from the object A using this proto, and it also defines one more property that is specific to this B object. The rest of the things will be inherited from the A object. So now what the program does is it just prints b.length and b.c. It basically invokes a function c. So what do you think what the output is supposed to be?
The first option.
The first option, that is undefined and hello. Would you like to elaborate? Why do you think so?
So because objects do not have length. Length does not work for objects, I would say.
Okay. Okay, so that's why we'll get undefined in case of b.length, but why we are getting hello in the next page?
Because when we are calling C, the function like C returns a function which is returning hello basically.
Okay, all right, yeah. So since we are basically calling this or invoking this C function using object B, how are we able to do so? That means B has the access to this function C. That's why we are able to call this, or we are able to make this call here at this place. That means this proto keyword is coming into the place, and it is basically allowing the object to make use of properties that are defined in the object A. So this is why the
So proto is basically inheriting all of A.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, as one of you mentioned, the answer would be b.length would represent undefined, and b.c will make a call to this C function that will just return a simple string hello. So yeah, undefined and hello is going to be the answer. Okay, all right. So we are going to talk about getters and setters. Which of the following shows the correct output if the following program is executed? Is it possible for me to show this entire program on a single screen? Let me see. Okay, I'll just refresh. This was the answer. I hope this entire program is now visible on my screen. So
Yes,
we are again supposed to predict output for this program. So what we are doing is we are doing a class initialization here. The class is being denoted with A. So I hope you have already studied Python, so you are aware what the object-oriented paradigm is and how do all these things work. Maybe you would have gotten some more idea from the lectures as well. So the way we create objects in JavaScript is using this new keyword. So what we are doing in the third last line of this program is creating an object with name obj for class A. We are not passing any what I say, any parameter to it. So that means the property is not defined for this object. But after that, what we are doing is we are saying obj dot input equals to abhi. So basically, what is happening here is we are making use of the getter property. We are basically making use of the setter property here. So if you will closely look at the functions that we have, these will be the methods since they are defined inside the class. So if you will closely have a look here, so you will see that we have basically defined two more methods apart from the constructor, which is accepting one parameter. So one is output, the other one is input. So if you will see these two keywords, that is get and set. So basically what you could have done is you could have created a simple method. Let's say input. You are not even required to use these keywords, right? Get and set. What you could do is you can simply create these methods as simple class methods, and you can invoke these methods with whatever parameter you want to. But basically the purpose of using these getters and setters properties is to have some intuitive syntax. So if you will have a look at this statement obj.input equals to abhi, this seems so clean. This seems so easy to understand that what we are basically trying to understand here is that there is some property input and we are trying to assign a string value to it, that is abhi. So we'll go into this function. Whatever it is, this value is, this will be given to this parameter, and whatever operations this function body is going to perform, those will take place. So what happens is the moment this statement is executed, this input, the set input function is executed, this gets the parameter name, that is abhi, and it simply assigns this to this dot name. So this basically represents the calling object. So here, what is the calling object? That means the thing or the reference which is making a call to the current function or the current method. Sorry?
Yeah, so in this case, obj is the
correct. Obj is going to represent this. Yes.
Yes.
So what you are basically doing is you are changing or modifying or basically setting a name property that belongs to an object called obj. So in the next part or in the next statement, if you will see that obj dot output. So again, output is basically a getter function here. What it does is it again makes a call to this function, this statement, and it executes whatever the body says. So what the body says that you have to return this dot name. Again, remember we are calling this getter method with the help of obj. In the previous statement, we invoked a setter method with some parameter, and what that method does was that it basically created one name attribute, or it just sets the name attribute for that particular object, for the object obj. In the next statement, what we are doing is we are saying that please give us the value of this dot name. So again, this reference will be replaced with what? With the calling object. What is the calling object here? This obj is making a call. So this dot name statement would be replaced with obj dot name. And I hope you all can now guess the answer. It's going to be abhi.
Abhishek, I have a question. Can I ask here?
Yeah.
So, in fact, input is basically a function, right? So the left-hand side of that expression is the function, and on the right-hand side we have a string, right?
Yeah.
So is this a specific way of invoking a function? Let us say if can this apply to any function in an object? Like for example, if I do not have set on it, you said set need not be there, right? So if set is not there, then let us say inside input, I have something called console.log, and I'm just printing the name. Can I do this kind of invocation in such case?
No. See, if you will remove this set keyword here, that means this is a standard method. So you will have to make a standard call, right, using those parentheses. Otherwise, it won't work.
So, and if that is the case, if it is a set, is it mandatory that it should initialize some internal parameter? Can I, if I write console.log name, will it work with set?
Sorry, I didn't get it. Can you just again repeat?
No. Basically, what I'm trying to understand is the syntax that we have used here. The left side is a function and the right side is the string parameter, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So if the function is written in a different way, can we still use the syntax is the question. Let's say in the function, instead of initializing this dot name is equal to name, if I say console.log name, can I use this kind of syntax to invoke that function?
Yeah, sure, definitely. So what you're saying is that you want to change the body of this function, is it?
Correct.
Yeah, definitely. You can do that as well.
So you're saying this is possible only because of this set, is it? If set is not there, we cannot do this.
If set is not there, we cannot. No, means the body can be anything. What I'm saying is that if the set keyword is there, then this is how you can invoke this method.
Correct. If set is not there, then we cannot use this kind of syntax to invoke it. You're saying.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
So this is just a cleaner syntax, right? It looks intuitive to the user or to the programmer.
So how about if we have multiple parameters? Let's say input is taking name and age.
So in that case, there are some custom logics that what you could do is you could basically provide a comma separated string, or let's say or a space separated string. So you could apply some logic within your function body itself that basically splits the string over a certain delimiter or whatever it is.
So we cannot pass an array of attribute parameters, is it?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So what's going to be the answer for this question? It is the second question. So what we were be obj.output. It is just going to return this dot name. So it is going to be a right. So what will be the output of the following program? I guess this is pretty much easy to answer. Right? Anyone of you would like to answer this question? Anyone?
Sir, 9.
It should return 9.
Okay, someone said 9. Can the person please explain the reason for that as well?
Sir, triple dot x will spread the values of x into y. So
okay,
total length will be 9.
So how many elements are there in array x?
In the x, there are 6 elements, and apart from that, 3 extra elements in y.
All right. So yeah, it will basically result in the length 9, right? Okay. So what will be the output of the following program? X equals to, okay, I guess we'll have to be a bit careful here, as I feel that there is one such graded question. So I may not be able to give you so many hints at this moment. Let me just double check. Okay, we already have one. Yeah. I would like to leave this question at this moment here. Okay, so the next question is also based on that. All right. So the fourth and fifth question, I would suggest you to please try these questions on your own, and we'll probably have a discussion on how these are working once the deadline is over for this week. So I'll just what was this? This was 9. So I'll just leave those questions as it is. I know that it is going to give us the answers, but till now, maybe you can try figuring out that what is basically happening here. The most that I can do right now is basically to share you an empty document link that can help you understanding and what is basically happening here. I hope you should be able to get the documentation for this sort function. If you want to customize the logic, that how sort works, you can do that as well. By default, it is something I don't want to reveal the graded answer question at this point. So yeah. I hope it is okay. I hope you understand the concern as well. So I would like to move to the next category since we are done with all of the questions for this. Okay, so what will be the output of the following program? We are having an array that is being represented using X. And what we are doing is we are using this reduce. So I hope for those who have finished watching the lectures, they would be able to answer, but the answer basically, answer this question and how the reduce method works. What are these two parameters what are these two parameters and what are they? Yes, anyone?
A is basically accumulator and it is initialized with value 10.
Yeah.
And it applies, I is the elements from the array.
Okay.
And so during reduction, the operation A plus I is done for each element, starting A with the initial value as 10.
All right. So for the first iteration, let's say if we are on the first element of this array X, what happens is you set the value of A is 10. So you say 10 plus I, that is going to be 1. So it gives 11. What happens with that value?
Correct. And 11 gets the accumulator value A is replaced with 11.
All right. Okay. Got it. Yep. So this is how you will be able to solve this question. So what happens is the very first moment when you start executing this reduce function. So I would suggest you to try doing a dry run for this. You would be able to get a better understanding of how this is working. So for the very first time, the value of A is being provided here is 10. Now we'll start iterating over this array. The very first value is 1. So 10 plus 1 is basically 11. And this A value will be overwritten with the new value that we have just computed. So it is now 11. Next time you are going to add 11 plus 2, that is going to be 13. 13 plus 3 is going to be 16. So 16 plus 2, 4 is going to be 20. 20 plus 5 is going to be 25, and 25 plus 6 is going to be 31. So what do you think what the answer for this question is?
31.
Sorry, I heard 30. I was not able to hear after that. Neeraj Kumar, are you trying to speak something?
Yes, sir. I said it would be 31.
Okay, 31. All right. Okay, so what is run to completion semantics in the context of JavaScript? This is something really helpful. I hope you would have understood the importance while watching the lectures as well. A task from the queue will be pushed to the call stack only if the call stack is empty. Do you think so? This statement is correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, this statement is correct. Let us just see that what all the statements are. A task from task queue task queue can be pushed to the call stack even if the call stack is not empty. That is not correct. The call stack will be executing one statement at a time. A task from the call stack will be pushed to the task queue only if task queue is empty. Of course, that is not the correct option. There is no sense in it. A task from the call stack can be pushed to the task queue even if the task queue is not empty. So again, this is going in a reverse direction. So the first option is basically the only correct option out of these. Yeah, so we'll move to the last category. The activity category, not the entire one. So which of the following shows the correct output? So something is happening here. What we are doing is we are creating a new object. We are making use of constructor by passing certain parameters. And then what we are trying to print on the screen is, firstly, we are using JSON API in order to convert the object into string. And after that, we are showing that what the type of that converted value is. What do you think? What the answer would be?
It will be string, sir.
It would be string, right? Because we have converted this obj into string using this JSON.stringify method. So yeah, it would give a string. So in the next question, what we are doing is obj, we are again creating an object. We are converting that object into string using this stringify method. We are storing it in temp. And then we are doing something with JSON.parse. So what JSON.parse does, can someone tell me?
I think it converts the string back into the object.
Convert. Okay, correct. Yeah, it basically converts the string back into the object. But do you think the temp would be able to remember or retain what the type of it is? For example, this temp basically it came from obj, and obj is of type A. So now if we are going to print the type of this converted object, is it going to be A or object?
I think it will be objects.
Yeah, it would be object because it does not have any way to remember that which class it belongs to. In case you want to basically achieve the original identity as well while converting or while making this conversion, you will have to write some custom logic to do that. So yeah, the answer would be object here. Okay, so we are basically done with all of the activity questions. May I know that if there are any queries from your end regarding any of the activity questions we have discussed so far, except those two that we have left out for now? Okay, so I would assume that there are no queries. So we'll move to practice questions. And I think we did till question number 5. We'll start with, I guess we also did this, I remember. So we'll start with question number 7. What is happening here is that we are having one class called player, which is having one constructor. We are having one class named bowler, which is extending the class player. So I hope you understand what does extending mean. It is related to inheritance. And this also this class also implements this constructor. With this super name, what we are doing is we are making a call to the parent constructor. So we are basically passing the parameters that the parent constructor accepts, and we'll see what other stuff happens. So at last, what we are doing is we are creating an object of class bowler. Remember, we are creating an object of class bowler and not for player. We are passing certain parameters to it. There are 2 integer values and 1 string value. So the string value goes as name. The second or the first integer value goes as wicket. The third parameter basically goes as average. Now, as soon as the control gets inside this constructor, you see that the very first statement says super with the parameter name. So what does this mean is that call the parent class constructor with this parameter name. So what the value of name is? It is Jasprit Bumrah. So it went here. What happened was that basically says that whatever this is, so what this is going to be, this is going to be the calling object. So what is this here? This is going to be this boom boom, the object that we have created here. So it is going to assign the name for that object to what it gets. So what it gets was it basically gets this Jasprit Bumrah as the parameter. So name is assigned to be Jasprit Bumrah. This is again representing the same object, that is boom boom. It says that the team is going to be Indian cricket team and the nationality is going to be Indian. So everything is being done for a single object. The name of that object is boom boom. And once this statement is executed, the control again comes back here, and it says that the role is going to be bowler. The wicket is going to be what it gets is this second parameter, and the average is the third parameter. So at last, if you're trying to print this object, what do you think? What all properties will be printed on the console? I guess the next few questions will be based on the same thing. Yes, it will be. So yeah, it is really crucial for you to understand that how this inheritance is working, what this super is doing, and how the control flow works. Yes, anyone?
Sir, I think the first one.
Okay, you think first one. So name, team, nationality, role, kit. How it is different from second one?
In second one, it is team is undefined and nationality is undefined. In the third also, couple of 3 of them are undefined. So.
Okay, let me see if all properties are there. So name, team, nationality. There are 6 properties in total. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. So the first option should be the correct one. It's basically dumping out all of the properties that are defined under this object. So all of these 6 properties will be shown, will be displayed. This question is also based on this inheritance, I guess. Yes, it is. Yeah, it is. So again, it basically asks us to predict the output for this program. We are creating an object of class batsman, and we are passing two string values to the constructor of it. The first parameter or the first value is Rohit. The other one is Indian cricket team. The moment this statement is executed, this constructor is invoked. What we do here is we immediately make a call to the parent constructor with both of these arguments. So what it does is, for an object called P, it sets the name to be Rohit and the team to be Indian cricket team. Once this constructor, finishes its execution, the control comes back here and it says that the role is going to be best. Now, console.log, and the next line, what we are doing is you are saying p.describe. Again, we are using a getter property here. Now, the question that could arise in your mind is that describe is something that is defined in class player, but you are trying to invoke it using something p. And what is p? P is of type batsman or batsman. So, any ideas that how this p can get access to this method called describe?
I think, sir, it's a parent class, so I think it gets the access.
Exactly. So we are using inheritance here. This batsman class inherits from player class. So whatever attributes are defined in the base class, they will directly be accessible to the child class. So that's why you can make use of this describe. And what this describe does is it says this dot name. So here, what this says, this is basically P. So according to P, what is the name? Name is this Rohit.
Rohit. Rohit from Indian cricket team. He's a batsman.
Correct. So undefined. Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Fourth option is basically the correct option here. So I hope you understood that how we got the access to this describe method. This is being done using inheritance. Okay, so many things are happening here. What will be the output of the following program? What we have here is we have const obj. We are having, I guess, two properties. One is a, the other one is operation, which is a function which is accepting 3 parameters and is returning some value. I don't know how this is going to be computed. After that, what we basically do is we create an array, and what we do is obj.operation. That means this method, we are going to assign it to a different variable which is named p. Now we are going to use 3 important methods in JavaScript. Those are bind, or I would start with call instead. Call, apply, and bind. So we'll see that what each of it does. Now with this call, what you can basically do is you can assign a different context while calling a method which belongs to an object. So for example, if you would see that this obj.operation is basically a method that is defined inside an object called obj. It is possible to call this operation method of this object with the context of a different object. It is possible with the help of these 3 methods. Those are call, apply, and bind. But in this example, at least, we are not creating any other object. We are calling those methods with the same reference, that is obj itself. But as I have mentioned, if you have another object, you can even pass that context list. That what do I basically mean by passing different context or by passing different objects? That means the value of this inside that method will get changed according to the object that you are basically passing as the context. So for example, if this says this.a, so this is going to represent whatever that object that you passes here. So obj, it is all obj here. That means it is going to be simple enough. But yeah, as I have mentioned, you could have done it differently. Okay. So if we talk about p.call, the very first thing that it accepts is the reference or the context. So we say that the context is going to be obj. If you don't pass anything, it basically takes global context. After that, what we are doing is we are passing whatever parameters that that method accepts. The method which we are calling here. So which method we are calling? We are calling this operation. So obj is going to represent what this is. It is going to tell what the value of this reference is going to be. 2 is going to be assigned to X, 3 is going to be assigned to Y, and 4 is assigned to be N. Let me again repeat this statement, that how this statement, I'm not talking about arr.push. Let us first try to compute what this p.call returns. The moment you use call method, you are trying to change the context of a method that belongs to a certain object. Right here, we are not basically changing the context, to be very honest, because we are passing in the same object again. But technically, it is possible. You could pass a different object reference here, and this would work perfectly fine. The other 3 parameters are basically the normal function parameters that the operation accepts. So is basically a method that belongs assigned to X, 3 will be assigned to Y, and 4 will be assigned to N. Now we have got the values of X, Y, and N, and of course this as well. Can someone tell me that what the output of this operation is going to be?
For p.call, sir.
Sorry, someone is trying to speak, but the voice is breaking a lot. I couldn't make out anything.
So, sir, for p.call, you are asking?
Yeah.
So, it will be 2 to the power 4, which will be 16, plus 3 will be 19, and plus 10 will be 29, I believe.
Okay, correct. So, it's going to be 29. So, that means p.call is basically returning what? 29. We'll talk about what is happening with those values that are being written. We are firstly focusing on what these methods do. So, now we are done with call. We'll jump on to the apply method. The working of the apply method is exactly same the way this call method works. The only difference is the way you pass the arguments that the function accepts or the method accepts is basically done in a different way. With the help of call, we were passing those parameters as individual values. But in case of apply, you are supposed to pass an iterable with all of those values. So what we do is we pass an array here with certain values. So it will just accept the first 3 values because this function is willing to accept only 3 parameters. The later ones will simply be ignored. That means obj is again going to be the reference, or it is basically going to tell what this is going to represent inside that method. 2x, y is also 2, and n is 3. So what do you think? What this apply method will return?
I think it will be 20, sir.
Okay, sorry, it will be
20.
Okay, 20. So x power n, so that means it will be 2 power 3, that is going to be 8,
8
plus y is going to be again 2, that is 10, and this dot a is 10 itself, so 10 plus 10, yeah, it's going to be 20. Now if we come to bind, so this is basically some way different from apply and call. That's the way it basically works. So if you will closely have a look at this function call, what we are doing is we are saying p.bind, and then while calling this bind method, we are passing 2 parameters. One is obj and one is 2. So what it does is it basically binds this reference with the calling object here. Apart from that, whatever parameters we are passing here, it basically locks those parameters with these values. That means what will it do is I'm just talking about p.bind. This opening parenthesis obj, comma 2, and then closing parenthesis. I'm not talking about this 3 and 2. We'll talk about it a little bit later. I'm just trying to make you understand that what this bind does. So p.bind object 2, what will it do is it will take this function. We know that this object is going to represent what this will be representing inside the method body. This 2 will be binded, or you can say it will be locked, or it will be assigned to what? To this x, or whatever the first parameter of that method is. If you would have passed multiple parameters, then those values would have been locked as well. So if we will keep this 3 and 2 apart, what this bind function will do is it will basically return a method where this is going to represent obj and x is going to represent 2. Now we have gotten a different function in itself. That means we already know that what the value of x is, we already know what the value of this is. This is itself a different function. With the help of these next set of parentheses, we are calling the function that was returned with the help of this bind method. Let me repeat the statement, what I said a few seconds ago. With the help of these next set of parentheses, we are invoking the function that was returned with, or from the result of this bind method. We saw that the value of this got logged to obj, the value of x got logged to 2. The function that we got is basically willing to accept 2 more parameters, y and n. There are 2 more parameters that are yet to be filled. So what we say is that okay, the second parameter, again let me just tell it that this is second parameter because the first parameter has already been logged, the x is logged. 3 is going to be assigned to y, 2 is assigned to be n. Again, let me tell, this time what is happening is this is going to be represented by obj, x is going to be represented by 2, y is going to be represented by 3, n is going to be represented by 2. It looks just similar the way you might have experienced working with call method, but here we are basically using an extra set of parentheses, because what this bind does is it basically returns a different function in itself. Okay, it doesn't make a call to that function. So what do you think what the value of this p.bind or whatever it returns would be? It would be 17. So if we'll just try to summarize whatever we have basically done in this question is this p.bind is, as you said, is it's going to return 17. p.apply, I guess it was returning 8 plus 2. Okay, it was returning 20 in my opinion, and call it is going to return
29.
1 second.
17, 20, 29.
Okay, just a 17, 20, 29. Okay, so the B option is going to be the correct answer. Yeah. So yeah, let me just ask it again here. Have you all understood that how these 3 functions or these 3 methods are working? Bind, apply, and call.
So can you go through it again? I didn't get it.
Which one of it you were not able to understand?
So I understood that in the second one we'll take only 3 and then ignore the rest, and in the last one we will take all 3, but I didn't get the first one, and I also did not understand what was the difference in using these 3 words.
Okay. Let me first start with call again. With the let me first basically tell you that what the basic usage of these 3 methods are. What we can do with the help of these 3 methods is we can make a call to a method that belongs to a particular object with the context of a different object. To try to understand what I'm saying, let's say right now we are just having one object at this place, but suppose we are having 2, and this object is defining one method in it, let's say operation x, y, n. It is having a property 10, let's say the other object is having the same property a, but having a different value, let's say 20. So what each of these methods...
But sir, you're not allowed to control the value of a, are you?
Sorry?
But sir, how will you control or assign the value of a for the object?
No, what I'm saying is that you could have a different object. Let's say you are having an object called obj. You could create one more object, let's say obj1, where you can define the value of a to be 20.
Okay, and the object has to have the same function operation, is it?
Need not be. It is okay if you do not have it, because what we want to understand is that we want to invoke a method with the context of a different object. Now, what you would say is that this operation belongs to obj, right?
Yes, yes.
Can you call this operation method with another object? Let's say what you would do in order to call this method is you would write obj.operation. But let's say if you are having an object, say obj1, can you do obj1.operation? Is it possible?
No, because this
it is not
method
possible.
is defined for object. Yeah.
Correct. So that's where the usage of these 3 methods come in. What we do is we make a call to these methods which belong to a particular object, but we are going to make this reference behave differently in the body. That means right now you could write obj.operation, and this dot a is always going to represent 10, because if you are saying obj dot, so obj says that my value of a is 10. But the moment you started using call, you can tell that what the value of this reference is going to be. Now let's say you are having an object obj1, and the obj1 has an attribute called a, the same attribute called a, but having a value called let's say 20. So what will happen is this dot a is not going to represent 10 anymore. It is going to say that now I am 20, I am not 10 anymore, because the value of this is what? It is obj1, it is not obj. So this will be replaced with obj1 dot a, so it would become 20, and the rest of the things will remain same. These are the parameters that you are basically passing here. In case of apply, all of the things remain the same. The only thing that changes is basically how you pass the parameters. In call, you are passing each and every parameter individually or separately. In apply, you are supposed to do it in an iterable. What we are doing here is we are creating an array, and we are basically passing all of the required parameters inside this array, or we can say the elements as the elements of this array.
Sir, why would we do that? Because this kind of thing is not allowed in Python, right?
In Python, you cannot even send a function. Okay, this is basically possible, but yeah, there are so many things that you would find different in JavaScript that are not supported, or going to break your code in Python. So there are so many new things in JavaScript that you will be exploring. JavaScript is a really flexible language. So I hope the difference between call and apply is clear. After that, I come to bind.
Yes, sir. Apply, we can pass an iterator, and in a call, we can pass a different object.
Yeah, please note, it is an iterable, it is not iterator.
Yes, sir. Sorry.
So now what is happening in p.bind is we are basically doing some locking stuff here. So p.apply and p.call, what they were doing is they were basically making a call to this function, right? They were making a call to this operation, and they were returning some value. But p.bind doesn't actually make a call to the function. What it does is it returns a function in itself. That means if you will remove this 3 and 2, this next set of parentheses from here, you are going to basically push a function into an array, because this is not basically directly making a call. What this is doing is this is accepting the parameter. The first parameter is basically the context, that is obj. So that means the value or this is going to represent obj, and whatever parameters that you provide here, those values will get logged. That means 2 will be assigned to x. Just forget about it, 3 and 2. The moment you execute this statement p.bind obj, 2, it returns you a function where this has been logged to obj and x parameter has been logged to 2. Now, what you could even do is you could even return it in a different variable. Let's say p.bind obj2 equals to, let's say b on the left hand side. So now b is itself a function, and you can call that b. That means you can write b and parenthesis, opening parenthesis, and write whatever parameters you want to pass it. But remember, the remaining parameters are only 2, because the value of x has already been logged. How? We already logged it using bind. So the only 2 other parameters that this function is going to accept, you are supposed to pass those while invoking the return function. So again, I'm telling you that bind basically returns a function. It doesn't call the function itself. The moment it returns the function, the value of x has already been logged, the value of this has already been logged, the y is given as 3, the n is given as 2, and then you perform the computation, and then you get the result. But in this case, we just skipped that part. That means we didn't assign the value of this bind to a different variable, and then we call that variable like a function. What we did is, okay, since we know that p.bind is going to return a function, we are again putting a set of parentheses, because this is how you basically invoke functions in Python or in JavaScript, or typically in any programming language. You have to use a set of parentheses in order to call a function, right?
Right, yes.
So this is what is happening here. You are just making a call to the returned function by this bind.
Okay, sir, got it. Thank you, sir.
Abhishek,
Sir, one doubt.
Yeah.
Can I go ahead? Just a small doubt.
Sure, sure.
Yeah, what is the significance of the const, sir? Will it not make it immutable?
Yes, it will. It will log the reference. That means you cannot change the reference.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
I have a question here, Abhishek.
Yeah.
In the lecture, while discussing the bind concept, a professor said that this is called a closure, right?
Correct. Yeah.
What is closure? The function is closure, or so is there any additional meaning to the closure? Why are we calling it as a closure?
Okay, the very first thing I want to understand, basically, I didn't want to get into this discussion as this would become really long. Do you know what closure is? I would just quickly answer your query if you know.
Mentioned that in the context of bind, he said that this is called a closure. One single statement he made.
Yeah. So do you know what a closure is?
No, I don't know.
Well, I'm very sorry here. I'll just try to give you a small overview that what actually closure is. I don't want to get into too many technical stuff I don't want to extend this session into something that doesn't basically make any sense right now. But yeah, we'll probably discuss closures in much more details in sessions going forward. So what happens is that whenever you basically define a function which is defined in a different scope, let's say which is defined inside a different function. So let's say you are having two functions, A and B. B is defined inside the function called A. Okay.
Okay.
So what happens? So what happens is, doesn't matter wherever you call this this function B, because if you could recollect from the last session, what we discussed was that JavaScript program is always executed in an execution context. The execution context, or basically the process of basically executing this entire program involves two steps. One is basically memory allocation, the other one is the code execution phase. And there is basically a stack that is formed for each and every execution context. That means whenever there is a function call, you create a different execution context for that. And you basically create a stack and nested kind of structure for that. So on a very high level, what happens is that whenever you create a nested type of structure or nested type of function, the inner function will always have the access to the variables which are defined or which are available in the outside function. I hope you agree with that. There is nothing wrong. The inner function has the access to the values or the variables that are defined in the outside function, in the outer function. Now, what happens is that doesn't matter wherever you call that inner function in your program. What it will do is it will always retain the value of the outer variables or the outer function value. It is always going to retain those values. Doesn't matter if that function is present in the memory or not. So what it does is it basically takes a closure. Closure means it basically takes a snapshot kind of thing that what all things were available in that scope that time, so that it gets the access to all of those values, to all of those variables at every place wherever that function is being invoked in the program. I might sound too technical at this place, but that's only a high level overview that I can give you right now for closures.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I hope we'll have opportunities to discuss. You said right later.
Yeah, sure, definitely, yes.
All right.
Basically, that itself is a quite vast topic. Maybe we'll discuss a couple of examples as well. That what is happening. I'll get my pen in one of the session and we'll show you that how these execution context thing works, how the call stack is being maintained. Then you will be able to get a better idea.
Thank you.
So, yeah, what will be the output of the following program? I hope you should be able to guess the answer for this question. Can some of you please try? Yes, any guesses?
Sir, Narendra Maurya, I believe.
Okay.
No, one minute, sir. Yeah. We are trying to assign console.log, so I think it will be error.
Sorry, why it will be an error?
We are trying to assign the object.lname the console.log value. No?
Okay,
console.log value will not return anything, I believe.
Yeah, so what it does is it console.log basically returns a special value called undefined. So there's no problem.
Okay.
What do you think?
Then the console.log will print Moria, I believe.
Correct. Yeah. So what it does is it executes this statement. So what happens is, since assignment operator, basically the associativity of it is comes from right to left. So it does what it does is it says that I execute this statement. Whatever the value it returns, I assign it to object.lname. So what it does is it says firstly print object.lname. What the value of it is Moria, right? And after that, it says the value of object.lname is changed. But that is too late. The value has already been logged on the console. Yeah, yes.
By the way, what will be the return type, sir, of the console.log? Is it null?
It will be undefined.
Undefined. Okay.
Yeah. You can even try it as well. Let me just see. I can do it here.
See, why did you say that the value is logged?
Sorry?
So why did you say that the value of lname is logged? Can we not change it?
No. Did I mention that the value is logged?
I think you did so.
Sorry if I mentioned that. Not sure. No, the value of object.lname is not logged. What I mentioned was that basically what it does is, firstly, this expression would be executed console.log. So it would print it on the screen. After that, whatever the value that this console.log function returns, it will be assigned to lname. So it would be too late, to basically get the undefined on the screen. Since this statement has already been executed, this is what I mentioned last
time. Okay, right.
So what I do is, if let's say I say a dot console.log something. So if you would see is that what is happening here, that it basically shows that what happens here, but means this console.log, it prints this as it is, and it also prints undefined. Right? What is this undefined? This is basically telling us what this entire statement returns. And now if I'll just print a here, so you will see that it is printing undefined. So that means the value of this variable a is undefined. That is returned by this console.log function call. Yeah. So the answer would be.
So why is it undefined?
Console.log returns undefined.
So lname will have undefined values, eh? in the program.
The lname would be replaced with undefined, but till now, by that time, this console.log statement was executed. That time the value was more. After this entire statement got executed, then the value changes. So if you would try to print object.lname after that, then you will get undefined. Is it okay?
The question was, what is printed in the console, or what would be the value of the attribute?
Sorry, can you just repeat it once again?
And that is why Moria is the correct answer, right? Had it been what would be the value of lname attribute, then it would be undefined, right?
See, what happens is the moment this statement is executed, you say that the lname attribute of object is assigned to Moria. This is having a value called string. The moment the control moves to the next statement, so this is the next statement. What happens is that since you are using this assignment operator, the associativity of this assignment operator is right to left. That means the expression of the right would be evaluated first. So what happens is it says that console.log object.lname would be executed first. So if this is being executed first, it will do whatever it is doing. So console.log, what it does is it dumps the value in the console. It prints the value in the console. So the moment this function call is executed, it just prints whatever the current value of object.lname is. The current value was Moria. Remember, the entire statement has not executed yet. We are just executing the right side part of it. Once this is executed, the return value of this entire function call, that is console.log, it is undefined. Now, this undefined value will be assigned to this lname attribute of obj. The value has already been printed. Obj.lname has already been printed, Moria. Now, if you will try to print lname in the next line again using the same statement, console.log object.lname, then you will get n. So what I'm
Correct.
saying here
So
is, by the
the
time this
question,
statement was executed, the value was born. It was not changed.
correct. What I was saying is, had the question been what would be the value of the attribute, then the correct answer would be undefined. In this case,
Correct. In that case,
question
yeah.
is in the question is saying what is the output of the program.
Correct.
That is why it is Maurya, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So if we would have asked that what the value of attribute lname for object obj would be after executing the complete program, then it would be definitely n. Okay. Yeah. So we are almost done. Oh, okay. We are, I guess, done. Pretty much done with everything, activity and practice questions. So are there any queries so far?
I have a question about the difference between for in and for off, right?
Yeah, I guess we discussed in last session. So what happens in case of in is that it basically ignores the holes.
For in, is it?
Yeah. In basically ignores the holes, but off basically doesn't. It considers it as undefined.
Okay. All right. So can we use iterable with for in or no?
Sorry, can we use iterable
For in?
The question itself is not clear. Can we use iterable for in this?
No. For in statement, let's say for x in or for x, that can we use iterable type object with for in?
Yeah, sure,
because,
you can.
Okay, all right.
Okay. Okay. So now, okay, the very first thing or the next thing that I wanted to confirm is basically the difference between const let and where. Is the difference clear to all of you? We had a detailed discussion on that in the last session as well.
When we are using in, it is giving indices, and when we are using off, it is giving values.
Values, yeah. Okay, so yeah, let me just repeat the last statement. So everyone is aware about the difference between const let and where keyword. I'm hoping so. Is there anyone who was not there in the last session and still not clear with the differences between the two?
So if you can go through it a little bit.
Okay. Well, would anybody like to volunteer here in order to explain what the difference between the two keywords is? Basically the three keywords: const, let, and where. Anyone would like to volunteer?
Let and const are block variable definers.
Okay.
Let is like we can change the way association assignment, whereas const we cannot. Whereas var is it's not block, it's like global scoping variable definition. Yes.
Okay. So we had a lot of discussion over hosting in the last session. I am not sure. So who answered this question? I guess it was Govind, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah. It's me.
Yeah. So were you there in the last session?
No, I was not.
Okay. So we basically had a discussion over hosting as well. That how the three keywords behave differently with hosting.
Yeah, I think I can make a guess. Probably it is we can use the variable before in the when we write the program. When the program is parsed top down with var, probably I think we can use the variable before defining it.
Okay.
Var gets hoisted to the beginning, whereas let and const we can use only after defining.
Okay, but why is it so? Does that mean that the variables declared using let and const keyword are not hosted?
That is my guess. I'm not sure about it. Only thing we have to use them only after defining them with let and const. Whereas if it is var, if it is var, basically we can define it later also, and still we can use it before in the program, in the order we write the program statements.
Okay. Well, yeah, nice try. Well, anybody else would like to volunteer? So whatever Govind said is almost correct. Just wanted to correct one of his statement. That's it. But is there anyone else who would like to share their opinions? Mir, do you want to say something? Mir Hassan?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, do you want to say something?
Yes. The var keyword is like a global variable. The scope is global and we can access it from inside a code block.
Okay.
For const, we can assign const, but we cannot change it later.
Okay.
And for let, if we assign let in a code block, then its scope is in the code block and we cannot access it outside the code block.
All right.
It's like our local variable and we can change its value later.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So I'll just try to explain a few things. I'm not sure if I'm sharing my full screen. Let's see. Are you able to see my file explorer?
No, we are only seeing the portal.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll have to reshare the entire screen. Let me do it. So I hope now it is visible.
Yes, sir.
Great. So not sure. I'll just quickly delete it. So see, what I have done is I have simply written some HTML here, and I have embedded this script called index.js, which is here. I'll make use of live server extension from VS Code. If you want, you can do so as well for easiness. Okay, so basically we are going to make the use of debugger, the default debugger that is provided by browser. I hope whatever browser you use, Chrome, Edge, or Firefox, they all have it. Okay. So as one of you mentioned that what happens with hosting is that the variables declared using var, they are hosted to the top of their scopes, and that means they can even be accessed even before they are initialized or they are declared. So what does that mean is, let's say if I'm creating a variable, say a, whose value is 10, what I can do is I can write here console.log a. So what do you think? What value shall I expect?
10.
Okay, you should expect 10. Okay, what will I do is I'll quickly go live and then we'll see what happens. So I'll just open the console and see what happens. Okay. So if you see here, it is basically saying undefined. Right? What we did here was that we try to access the value of a variable named a. After that, we provided the declaration and initialization part of it. So we are basically not able to access the original value, but still we are able to access the variable. That means, it is not giving us the error. That means this variable is basically present somewhere in the memory. That's why we are able to use it. Now, is it something that is applicable to all of the variables which are not even initialized in the entire program? Let us see. I'll just change it to B, since B is something that is not defined anywhere in this program, and see if we get an error. So if I go there and I'll go to console. Okay, I guess someone has already put breakpoint here. Let me just complete it. Yeah. So you see that I'm getting an error, reference error, that is B is not defined. So that's not true. That means, that there was something special happening with variable A, because if we are saying B, it is giving us an error that there is nothing like B in this program. But if we change it to A, it is not even giving us 10. It is saying that it is undefined. So basically what happens is, as I discussed, I guess at one point in this session, that the JavaScript program is executed using an execution context or within an execution context. And there are two phases involved in this execution phase, or basically in the entire execution of this program. The first phase is basically the memory allocation part, where the memory for each of the variables, or basically memory for each of the variables which are defined in the global scope is allocated. Since we are talking about call stack, so definitely there is some memory allocation happens for those variables as well, but I don't want to get into that part right now. I just want to give you an overall or a high level idea of what's the difference. So in the first phase, the memory allocation happens. That means they all get some memory. The program has not started its execution, but the variables that are defined in the global scope have already got the memory. But since they have gotten the memory, there should be some value, that these variables are basically pointing to. Since they have got the memory, there should be a memory reference or the value that is present at that memory reference. So by default, whenever the memory allocation happens for such variables, by default, they all get undefined as the value. They all. Let me show you how this works. So I'll just go here. What will I do is, so you can see that I have basically put a breakpoint here, or I'll just show you right from the scratch. I'll just okay. So I'll close this as well, so that you can see from the beginning how it works. So I just clicked on the inspect. You can even press F12 depending on the shortcut key that your browser has. What I will do is I'll go to first console if there is anything. So what I'm getting is I'm getting undefined. The reason is that I'm trying to access value of A. So it is giving us undefined. Sources. In sources, you can see that there are two resources. One is index.html, the other one is index.js. We are going to work with index.js as of now. I am going to click on the second line. So clicking on the second line means that we are going to put a breakpoint. Breakpoint in the program, it is something similar or exactly similar the way it works in Python. That means the code won't be executed beyond that point. That means whatever code is written before this line number 2 will be executed. But the code written from this line number 2 or after this line number 2 won't be executed until and unless you ask the browser to. Okay. And what is the code written before this line number 2? There is nothing. So that means nothing will happen. But the memory allocation phase, it would have been finished by the moment the control will reach. That means the variables that are available in the global scope, they would have been allocated some memory. So I just wanted to emphasize on that part. So since I have already put a breakpoint here, I'll just refresh the script. So after I refresh the script, you can see that paused on breakpoint. You can even see this script keeps loading. That means the JavaScript code has not been completely executed yet. It is still in the processing, or it is still in the execution. As I have mentioned that the memory allocation has already been happened. So, sorry, I'll just do it once again. The breakpoint is already available. Just look at the right-hand side here. What all things are available? I have one breakpoint that is available at line number 2. As you can see, I can minimize and maximize it. If you will click on it once again, it will be removed. If I click on it, it will be added here. Okay, you can create as many as breakpoints in your program as you want. But right now, if you will have a look at this scope, this is basically an empty dropdown. There is nothing. I'll run the script. Since the breakpoint is here, that means the lines written before line number 2 are executed, but there is no line at all. That means just the memory allocation part has happened. Nothing else. Not even a single line of your JavaScript code has been executed so far. Okay. So now, if you will look at this scope dropdown, previously it was empty, but now if you will have a look, it is having one thing called global. So what this global says, it basically gives us a list, or it basically tells us that what all things can be accessed in this scope. So if I'll just expand this, the very first thing that you will see here is undefined. So that was precisely the reason that I chose the variable name to be A, so that we can see it on the top. You will see that it is initialized with undefined. right? Again, please remember my point that not even a single line of this JavaScript program has been executed so far. And the A variable is existing, is basically present in memory and is initialized with value undefined. And that's why when you execute this statement, so I will be using this step control here in order to execute one statement at a time. So with this step, it will just execute one statement. So since the breakpoint is at line number 2, if I click on it once, it will execute line number 2. And it will come to third. It won't execute it until and unless I press that button again or some other control. So I'll click on it. If we look at the console, there is nothing, okay, because the script has been paused, right? Even the console.log statement has not been executed. That's why there is no message in the console. The moment I click on step, this statement has now executed. But if you will look at the value of A, that would remain unchanged. Because what we are doing in that statement is we are simply dumping the value of A on the console on the screen. Still, it says that the value of A is undefined. But now if you will go to console, you will see one message called undefined. That's what the value of variable A was, right? This makes sense. Now, if I click on this step button once again, what will happen? This statement will be executed. Again, note down the value of A. Right now, it is undefined. If I click on it once again, the entire JavaScript program has almost finished its execution. We just need to click on the step button once again. But before that, I'll just scroll up to the top and will show you what happened with the value of A. So you can see that the value undefined has now been overwritten with this step. Right? This is how the variables are basically posted in JavaScript. Now, let me tell you what hosting means. Hosting basically puts the declaration of all of the variables to the top of their scopes. Please again, listen to it very carefully. I'm just saying that it puts the declaration. It doesn't put the initialization. Right? Here, what we are doing is we are doing declaration plus initialization, both together. So what will it do is it will just, do something like this, where A, it will do it that way. The moment this JavaScript program starts executing, it will just create this variable A for me on the top of the program. And that's why I'm able to use this A, since it is already defined. It is already declared in my program. Is this thing clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Very clear. Thank you.
Now, what happens with the other keywords? Those are let and const.
Sir, so the first phase is memory allocation and the second phase is execution, is it?
The second phase is code execution. It is also named as, I guess, thread of execution, if I'm not wrong. I guess.
Right. And sir, what happens if you use let instead of var?
Yeah, sure. That's what I'm coming on right now. Okay, so what will I do is I'll just change this var to let here. I won't put any breakpoint as of now. I had already done it, so I'll just remove it. And I'll finish the entire JavaScript program. I'll remove the breakpoint. And I'll just reload this entire page once again. I reload it. If you'll, well, you can already see one error here. Can someone guess what the error is?
Reference error.
Exactly, it's reference error. Or basically, yeah, you can say that. Okay, so here, just look at the message that you are basically getting here. Cannot access A before initialization. So this message is going to give you a lot of insights. This is not saying that the variable is not defined. So this makes it makes clear that even the variables that are not declared using var or those are declared using let are also posted. Why? Because in the message it is saying cannot access A before initialization. That means there is some A that is present in the memory. That's why we are getting such message. Otherwise, we would have gotten that it is not defined, something like that. Okay. So this makes us clear that the variables declared using let and const are also posted. But the way they work is slightly different, from the way the var keyword works. So we'll have a look at it, that how these things are different. So if I'll go to sources again, yeah, we know that it is giving us an error. So it also does the same way, right? It also says that let A, it puts it on the top. This also happens in this, but still it is saying that. Okay. So yeah, it doesn't matter. I'll just remove it. Oh, sorry. Okay, so I'll just write console.log a and let a equals to 10. That's it. Okay. Yeah. So we have just seen that even the variables declared using let and const are posted, but it is still giving us an error. Let's see that what happens. Are these variables allocated the memory? Let's have a look at that. So, okay, the program has been refreshed. I'll just go there. I'll refresh it. And I'll put a breakpoint here, and then I'll just reload this page again. So now, if you will have a look at the breakpoints drop down, you will see that we have one breakpoint that is at line number 2. That means everything has been executed before line number 2. That means nothing is executed because there is no line present before line number 2. That's the first line of our program. The memory allocation phase has finished. So that means all of the variables should have been allocated memory by now. So this time inside scope, you are getting two things. One is global, one is script. In global, you won't be able to see any variable because we have not created a variable using var. You won't be able to find any. But if you will have a look at the script, it says that there is one variable called a, which is initialized with undefined. That means the memory allocation has already happened for this a variable as well, right? Even before the execution has reached the declaration of in the program. But it has been done at a different place. Remember, it has not been done at global level, right? It is not available inside global. It is available at some other thing that is. Okay. So, but what happened?
Abhishek, the script is nothing but the name of the file, the script file, is it?
Sorry?
Or no, the script scope. Is it coming because the name is index.js? Oh, it's not script.js.
Yeah, it's not.
So if there are two scripts files, still both will be under the same script thing?
Sorry, I'm not getting this question.
If there are two script files, let's say in script 1, I have A, just the way you wrote, I have A, and in script 2, I have B.
Yeah.
Both of them I'm loading into HTML using script tag.
Yeah.
Then if I run, will there be two scripts in the scope, or it will be one single script with A and
But right
B?
now we are just working with one here, right? We have put a breakpoint of one line of one statement of this file, index.js. We are just working with this single file.
No, right now I understand, but just to extend this, let's say if I have two scripts, and I'm loading both of them, script 1 and script 2. It says script 1 I already loaded, and in script 2 I've placed the breakpoint just like.
Okay. So what you are saying is that will this script become different for multiple scripts? Is it?
Correct.
I don't think so. I think they would still remain the same. Let me just try doing it once. I'll just copy it. I'll say index1, and I'll just create one index1 here. .js, and I'll put the same code.
Yeah, same code with maybe we can do it with the A. We can still do it with A, right?
Yeah. Let us first try with B and see what happens. I'll remove the breakpoint basically. Okay, so it has been paused, so I'll remove the breakpoint and I'll finish the execution. So
maybe you can put the breakpoint in the second thing, right?
Okay, just a minute. I'm somehow not able to get the access to it. Index1.js. Okay. Okay, I'm somehow not able to get the access to it, or let me see if I can get it from here. Yeah, here. Okay. So I can basically put a breakpoint, let's say here, and then I'll start it. So yeah, basically what happens is that if you will put a breakpoint here, that means the control is not even going at.
Correct. Can you please put the breakpoint in index1?
Sure. Okay, so if I'll put it here and I'll refresh it. So yeah, it says A. Yeah, it's a single script.
No. You can remove the one in the previous one.
Sorry?
You can remove the breakpoint in the first one. There are two breakpoints, right? Index 1 breakpoint, it has not reached yet.
Okay.
What I'm saying is,
okay,
you
I
put
got it.
2 breakpoints.
Uh,
But 2 breakpoints, now it is. I think one of them is going out, right? Breakpoints, one of them is
yeah, don't know. 1 second. Just pause it. Okay, so there should be no breakpoint now. Yeah, there is nothing. Okay, so where should I put the breakpoints now?
in index 1.
Index 1.
Yeah.
Okay, so shall I
So
redraw?
this is where, like, by this time A should have been initialized, and
Okay.
B is like what we are investigating for here. Okay, you got A, B, both of them, and they are in the same scope.
Sorry, they are in the.
Looks like on the right side, they are all both of them are under
the same script. Yeah. Sorry,
okay.
But I'm still not able to get your question.
No. But my question was the first question was because we are using let and both let is like block scope, so we can use same variable in both the scripts, right?
Yeah, correct. Okay. Yes, yeah,
Then,
that is.
Then will there be 2 scripts was the question, like along with the global, will there be 2 scripts?
Okay. I guess, yeah, that's been cleared now.
No, but here the variable names are different. What?
Okay, so you want me to change?
Maybe we can change it and see. We can say A equal to 20 here. In the index 1, we can say, yeah. Now we will see.
There is no such breakpoint. Okay, I'll just put it here and I'll again refresh it. So the script has already finished its execution. Let's see what is happening. Is there? Yes, now it will happen. No. Nothing is happening. Okay, just a minute. Okay, so it is here working, but it is not working. The other one is it. Just refresh as it is.
Oh, there is some error, is it?
Yeah, means you are trying to use A before the declaration part. I'll come on to that why there is an error. That A has not been initialized yet. That I don't know what is.
We can just close the window and reload the live server again.
Okay, so no, somehow not working. It is basically cannot access A before the initialization. So it is happening for. Okay, looks like the error is being caused here, so that's why the control is not getting shifted to the next place. That is the issue.
Okay.
So we are being caught at this place itself, right at line number 8. Okay, I'll just well, we do not need index1.js now. I'll just.
We can continue with the discussion and see index. Whatever is happening in index is okay, right?
Yeah. So yeah, what was the last thing that we discussed?
We were seeing whether with the let how is the behavior. Then we saw 2 things that are coming in scope. One is global, other is script.
Okay, the other one is script. So in the script, you were able to see that the value or basically the memory for variable A was allocated and it was defined or basically it was initialized.
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah.
So, sir, once you showed us that when A was declared using let, we got a reference error. Correct. But then later in the same script, we got undefined instead of reference error. How did that happen?
Oh, when did we get undefined?
We did get undefined under the script thing for let also, right?
No, for let we won't get undefined. It will be for where.
Okay.
For let, it will always say that the code execution phase has not reached the declaration yet. For let, it is not possible to access that variable before the declaration has been reached in the code execution phase. So that's what we have been discussing here. So if I'll just put a breakpoint here and reload it, so you will see that A has been allocated some memory and is by default initialized with undefined.
Yes, sir. This is what I was asking. Once we got reference error, but now under script we are getting undefined.
We have not got the reference error so far. We have put a breakpoint at this line. That means none of the line has been executed so far.
Yeah. So shouldn't we get a reference error if the let line has not been executed?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That the reference error would be received when this line would be executed. But right now, this is still in the pause mode. We are yet to execute this statement. The moment I click on this tab button, then it would be executed and then we will get it.
Right, but how did script know that A is in the code?
Sorry?
So how did A show up in the script part then? Is it automatic?
Yeah, we discussed that the memory allocation basically phase happens before the export execution. So in memory allocation, whatever variables that are available in the current scope, they are allocated the memory.
So that is happening as part of hoisting. Hoisting, that's what you said, right?
Sorry?
Hoisting is causing the memory allocation to happen before it is
even execution is it? Okay.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Even for variables that are declared with let.
Yeah, correct. All of the variables are basically hosted, but just the way they work is basically different, a bit different. So now, if you will see that, we can see that A has come under script, it has not come under global. That's why we are not able to use it. And it has also been initialized with undefined. But the thing is that the moment I'll try to execute this statement, I won't get undefined. What will I get is I'll get an error that cannot access A before initialization. So basically what happens in the case of, let and const is the hosting does happen. It is not correct to say that hosting doesn't happen in case of const or let, but it happens in case of where. No, it's not correct. It's completely wrong. The hosting happens the way it does. Basically, the variables that are declared using const and let, they are put in a special kind of zone that is known as temporal dead zone. I'll just put it in the chat as well for your better readability. So it is known as temporal dead zone. So temporal dead zone is basically a place or basically a portion, that starts from the memory allocation phase. And where does it end? Can someone guess? The hint is that you cannot access any variable that is present inside temporal dead zone. So the moment or the time this temporal dead zone will end is basically the thing or basically the line where you are able to access the value of that variable. So at what place the variable becomes valid? The access to that variable becomes valid. Can someone guess?
You mean global or?
No. So right now we are getting this error A because this variable has not been defined. Let's say I just comment this statement. What do you think that, when I can access this A here in my program? When? I can access it only after line number 3. Am I correct? Before that, I am going to get an error.
Correct.
So that is what is happening here, that all of these variables, or right now we just have one variable that is A, that is kept inside temporal dead zone. And this temporal dead zone will only end when the code execution phase will reach the declaration of that variable or the initialization of that variable. Please, again, listen to my statement. The temporal dead zone will end at the place when the code execution phase will reach either the declaration or the initialization of that particular variable. That means doesn't matter the hosting is happening or not. Well, it's happening. I'm saying that it is happening, but still you cannot use variable a, which is declared using let, before it is declared or it is what I say, undefined. Sorry, initialize. Just a minute. Just give me a minute. Sorry. Yeah. So I'm back. Okay. So what I was saying is, yeah. Okay. So let me just make certain changes in this script. What will I do is, I'll just copy this or even cut this statement. I'll say let a, and I'll statement. Okay. What do you think? What the output of this script is going to? What do you think? Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Okay, yeah. Thanks for confirming. Yeah. So can you guess what the output of this script is going to be? Just these 2 lines.
Undefined, right?
Exactly. It's going to be undefined. How can you say it's going to be undefined? So if I'll just reload it. Okay, this, I don't want this debugger to work now. I'll remove this breakpoint.
A is having value undefined. Only thing is the
we are getting
execution engine is allowing the execution to go through.
Exactly, correct. So just remember the last statement that I mentioned, that the variables that are declared using let and cons, they are also hosted, but they are basically kept in a special type of zone that is called temporal dead zone until the code execution phase either reach their declaration or initialization. Now see that the code, since it has reached the declaration, after that you are able to access it. But what is the value? The value is still undefined. Right? If I execute this script, you will see that the value is undefined. Right? I'll just put a breakpoint here, and I'll show you step by step. So what happened is, here you can see that script is created. A is undefined. The value of A is being created. Sorry, it is initialized with undefined. I click on. Just put it on top. I'll click on this step. That means the next statement or the second statement instead is going to be executed. Now, since this A or the code execution phase has basically read this statement. Okay, it has read that okay, the A variable has now been declared. Now you will get the access to this A in the current scope. That means you will be able to access it now. So if I click on this console, right now you can see that there is a blank console. But if I click on the step control button, you will see that undefined message will be dumped on the console. The reason is that since the code execution phase has reached this part, you are able to access this variable. Before that, they were kept in a special type of zone that is known as temporal dead zone.
What if we change that line, let A to, let's say A equals to 20 and uncomment the third line?
Okay, so what you're saying is if we make it let A equals to 20 and
no, don't use let, please. You can remove the let. Just say A equal to 20.
A equals to 20, yeah. Sorry.
A equals to 20 and uncomment the let statement.
Okay, here. So if you're not using, basically any identifier here or the keyword here, it would be considered var by default, and it should, give you an error that you cannot basically redefine a variable using let keyword. Or is it only applicable for let or for var as well? I'm not sure. Let us just see. Let me remove the breakpoint. Yeah, so it gives us an error. No, it is something else, I guess. Sol.log A, let me see. Cannot access A before initialization. No, something else is happening.
What I was hoping is, with let A would be hoisted, and by the time it reaches line 3, it would have the hoisted variable would have initialized to 20. I thought console.log A would work. Apparently something else is happening.
Yeah, it should basically. Okay, if I just uncomment this line. So yeah, it is working as expected and it is printing the value 20. But it's like the moment you use let, so I was hoping for an error that you cannot redeclare a variable using let keyword. Refresh. But the error is showing something else that cannot access A before initialization. Well, I'm not entirely sure about this error. Maybe I'll just see that what is happening. Then I'll get back to you. Okay.
So when we do not use let const or where, then let is taken by default, is it?
Sorry.
So when we don't use let const or where, let is taken by default, is it?
No, where is taken.
Where, okay. Where. Thank you.
So to be very honest, it is not a good practice at all to leave the basically the keyword part of it. As much as possible, please try to use const as the keyword while working with variables. If you are not able to work with const, try using let, and where should be the least right. You should not use let at any place in your code if you are writing a JavaScript code in today's state. You should be using let and const. Okay, so the priority should be const, after that let, and in the worst case, you can make use of where. Try to avoid using where as much as possible. Okay, so yeah.
So sir, you also mentioned that let makes local variables. So does that mean that these are defined inside a function and can only be used inside functions? Or
function scope and local scope are two different things.
Okay, I didn't understand that, sir.
Okay, so what you can do is you can basically create local scope, something like this. So this is a local scope. That means the variable using variable declared using let here, it can only be used within this block, right? But if you are creating a variable using where, that doesn't mean that you can the access to this variable is only restricted to this block. It can even be used outside there. But there is something known as functional block. Right? So where the variables declared using where keyword, they are having functional block. That means if they are declared inside a function body, they can only be accessed within that function body, not outside that. But if they are declared outside a function body, then they can be used anywhere in the entire program. Doesn't matter wherever you use them. If they are declared outside the function body, they can be used anywhere else.
So how does the function body look, and why do we need to make code blocks? What is the advantage of making code blocks like this with flower brackets?
So you yourself have answered your question that why do we need code blocks? So that we can basically create different scopes. Let's say you want to restrict the access for a particular variable. You can basically create a scope so that that variable cannot be accessed outside, and it should give error in case you try to do so.
Okay, so can you help me with relating this to something related to Python, or is it a use case that's not served in Python?
No. You cannot relate it with Python. Python doesn't have this block-based and things like that.
And how do you define functions here, sir?
Sorry?
How do you define functions here, sir?
How do you define functions?
Yeah, so you also told me about functional blocks. So
yeah, so functional block means the scope of a function body. So you can just use the function keyword the way you use def keyword, def keyword in Python. In the same way, you use function keyword in JavaScript, write the function name, use these parentheses, whatever parameters you want to provide. And now you will have to get back to the C++ and Java style. The indentation is not going to work anymore. So you will have to use these curly braces. So these curly braces are going to define what the scope or the body of this function is going to be. Not basically the scope, but the body of this function.
Okay.
Okay, all right. So, yeah. Let me just, okay, 1 second. Well, I'm not sure what I was writing that time. Anyways. Well, so is the difference between let, const, and where clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so remember please that all of such variables are posted, but the way they work is slightly different. So const and let, they were introduced in the ES6 version of ECMA, and that's why they behave a bit differently from that. Again, I would like to point out the best practices that you should be using while writing the code. Try to avoid use of where as much as possible. Try to use const as much as possible, and wherever you cannot make use of it, you can go with let.
And sir, don't we care about the type of values that we store inside variables? For example, string or int or float.
So JavaScript is a dynamically typed language, so you need not worry about it.
Okay.
Just like Python.
Okay.
Okay. So basically, I had planned something else for this session. I wanted to develop that small table application just to show you that how DOM manipulation can work in JavaScript. I don't think we would be able to do it right now. Anyways, okay, so if I would just like to stop sharing my screen here. May I know that how many of you have already solved the week 2 programming assignment? Week 2 JavaScript programming assignment, that cafe problem. Okay, Snehil, Neeraj, Govind. Okay. Were you able to pass all of the test cases?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. All right, nice. So, but you have solved that problem statement. So the others, I would also suggest them to just try giving some time or have a look at that problem statement. It is going to be fun solving that. And yeah, many of your JavaScript concepts will get clear with that, that how basically objects work in JavaScript. We are going to deal with objects a lot in JavaScript. So yeah, it's better if you gain a fair familiarity with all of these things. Okay, so yeah, are there any other questions so far? There is complete silence. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Can you explain as to why you would use scopes?
Sorry, why would you use?
Scopes, the code blocks you were talking about. Can you give an example of where you would use it? Or
yeah, I mentioned that in case you want to restrict the access of a variable to a particular scope or to a particular block, then you can use that.
okay, sorry.
Okay. Yeah, so are there any other questions? Okay, so I would consider it no. In the case of this silence. All right, so hopefully in the next session, we'll start with the table application. We'll try to finish it as early as possible. as I have already mentioned, I don't want to focus on too much on the aesthetics part of it. I just want to show you how simple DOM manipulation works. After that, I guess in the next week, you are going to get introduced to Vue.js. So things will start getting more interesting. And I hope you will enjoy the upcoming weeks as well.
Thanks a lot, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Abhishek. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Okay, so thanks everyone. Thanks for joining this session. Now, I guess we can formally close this session. So have a good night and have a good weekend as well.
You too have a good weekend. Thank you.
Thanks.